Okie dokie.
Okay.
Stand by. Oh, let's see here.
What you doing? What you got going on?
All right.
What you doing over there?
See,
You getting your gift bill and all.
I'm getting it all put together.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Start with a little easy top.
Show.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my good friend and the best drummer I've actually ever been in a band with.
You have not played in very many good bands, have you?
Is Mr. Matt Bowers.
Hi,
Now,
kids.
Dude, what were you going to say?
I said you haven't played in very many good bands.
Well, that's true.
How could that be?
But you have been the subject of almost everybody that comes through here. Everybody that comes through here, because it's local players, and they're always like, well, you play with Matt Bowers.
Yeah.
And so you always come up, and I always tell them, is like, my favorite thing about playing with you is that you play the song and you get the people dancing.
That's the job, right?
Like, but there's so many drummers out there where, like, not that there's anything wrong with a bunch of flair or whatever, but, like, your time is perfect.
Thank you.
And everybody that plays with you says the exact same thing. They're like, dude, that guy, you just set it and you forget it and you cue every change and you're a real pleasure to play with, brother.
Thank you. And likewise, we've talked about players before and how you can hear the difference in a player that, a guy that's like, all right, I want to learn this because I just want to learn this, compared to a guy that's, and like I said, we discussed this before, where you can tell that at one point, and at any point, because it's your gig to play guitar, right?
Yeah. For a living.
For a living, right? And God bless you, you can do that, because I'm
Dude.
sure there's a ton of people that would love to that aren't able to for whatever reason.
Yeah, man.
But you can tell in your playing that it's a part of your person.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
You've played it so much that it just comes out, and that's not to say, because I certainly do it, but when you don't make a lot of mistakes, and what's funny is that when he does make mistakes, Mike's always to my right, and Sean, our bass player's to our left, and I just look at him, and Mike just one of these.
I'm gonna do a lap. I'll be right back.
Right, and like when Sean fouls something up, I always look at him and say, no, not that one.
Yeah, pick any other one.
Any other note.
Don't hit that one again.
Yeah.
But no, I appreciate that, and I think that our band in general, we try to do that on purpose. Like we try as a band to be just, I think, groove and rhythm oriented more than anything first.
Well, that's what keeps butts on the floor.
And that's it, man. That's the whole gig, man. And like you guys, so I know you teach a lot as well, right? Or you have in the past.
I have in the past, yeah.
And so when you work with drummers that want to work and want a gig, I imagine that's like your main thing you try to push on them. Is just like,
well, yeah. The main thing with, are we talking about from the onset of playing, or somebody that's had a little bit more experience?
Someone that's had a little bit more that wants to actually gig and be out there.
Yeah, learn the song, know the song. And that's all. It's just a matter of whether you write out a chart or I'm not one that learns stuff really well, at least in the beginning, by memorizing it. It doesn't work for me. And the reason for that,
you chart everything out, don't you?
For the most part. I have my really ass-backwards way of charting things out that works for me. And where that all started was the first working band I was in when I was 21. I played with a sequencer and a click track 95% of the night. Yeah. And I'll tell you, and I'm dating myself a little bit by, everybody uses laptops nowadays for that stuff, right? And everybody's got their in-ears and, you got a rack with all that stuff in it. Well, back then, we had an old Korg 01W with the little 3-inch discs. And the way back then you did 45-minute sets as opposed to what we normally do in a club, which was an hour. No, 40-minute sets, actually. So what we would do is that the first 5 songs of the set were sequenced. And whoever in the band sang what? I was the only one that didn't sing lead. That's why people hire me to play drums, because you don't want to hire me to sing lead. And so we would load we would load the first half of the set into the keyboard, and the bass player would hit the thing, and I'd either have 1 or 2 bar count off for that, and then we would do a live song. And while we were doing the live song, usually the guy Danny, the guy that ran the band, he would go over and load the second set while somebody else sang. So that's just how we did it. And it was anything, like one of our live tunes was What I Like About You, because it's pretty straight down the road.
Now, did you get used to playing with the track and a click? 'Cause I know that's just kind of like a skill in itself.
Yeah. And actually, I'd never done it until I played in his band. You know Mark St. Pierre.
Yes, I haven't met him, but I know who he is.
If you come to Baltimore and you want to see probably one of the most amazing just drummers in general, come down and see Mark St. Pierre. The guy's ridiculous. I saw him years ago at the 8x10.
Yeah.
He was playing with Shea Welsh, and they opened up the night, and then Michael Fath came out. It was totally two different things because Shea was more like the jazz fusion kind of Schofield-y kind of thing, and Michael Fath, just for sake of argument, was more of the Satriani type of thing.
Yeah.
So like, you know, big hair, double bass drum, you know, whereas Shea Welsh, you know, Mark came out with his, you know, Pearl 5-piece or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mark was the first drummer that I had ever seen, not on video, playing fusion. You know, of course, I mean, I'd seen a million videos with Dennis and Dave Weckl and Vinnie Colaiuta and all that stuff, but I'd never seen anybody locally at that point. I was 18, and took lessons from him. But anyway, with my first working band, First Class, he recommended me for that. And when I went in for the audition, Danny, the guy that ran the group, he was like, "Have you ever played with a sequencer before?" I'm like, "No."
He's like, "You still want the job?"
He's like, "You ever played to a click track?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Okay, well, let's try this tune." And I remember you want to talk about attention for detail?
Go for it.
Jeff talking about attention for detail that one time. The first tune that he had me play with was Huey Lewis's version of "It's All Right."
I love Huey Lewis, man.
I know, we were talking about that the last time we played at the beach.
Huey Lewis.
And it gave me a 2-bar count off, and he's like, just follow it. And I'm like, okay. So I heard the first bar, the second bar, and then. And that was pretty much, that's the gist of the song. You know, it may be a little simpler with the kick drum. Who knows?
Yeah.
And got through it, and he's like, how was that? And I was like, well, you tell me. And he said, sounded great.
Yeah.
He's like, let's do another one. I'm like, okay. So we did another one.
Yeah.
And that was it.
Do you, now, since playing in that band, I know you've played in tons of other bands with some really big names. Has that been the only band that you ever played with a click or a track with, for the most part?
Yes. As far as a full-on band situation, gigging, yeah, that's the only band I've ever done that with. And I'll tell you what, you know, and it was also the first band. Danny didn't like acoustic drums.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it to a certain extent.
Just for volume?
Volume's sake, controlling sound in certain places. We did a lot of weddings like we do now, so you're playing in these.
Or did you have a lot of ship horns that you needed to hit, you know?
I didn't have enough ship horns. But I played, he said, you have to get an electronic kit. I didn't really want to.
Yeah.
But I had to, and I remember the kit that I had was, the brand was, I think it was SNS Squadron.
Okay.
You know, they had real heads on them. But they weren't like V drums, which
they
were
weren't
nice
like
and
the
quiet.
Rollins,
These were like kind of loud and clacky, acoustically. And that with an old Alesis DM5 that's about as much of a workhorse of a module as you can get. No real parameters to set for sensitivity. It's just that's it.
It's all just one trigger.
Yeah, pretty much. And regular cymbals, and that was the gig.
Yeah, man.
And that's the only gig I've ever done straight, you know, 4 years sequencing.
You did 4 years with that band?
Did 4 years with that band.
And then what'd you do after that? Eventually get to the whole, you know, Derek St. Holmes Nugent thing, because I know everybody would like to hear that story.
That was later. I got burnt out after that band.
Yeah?
Because we worked a lot. That was my full-time job. And I was a kid, you know, I was 21, 22, and I wanted to get, you know, a regular job, and this type of medium for teaching, you know, there was no internet yet. It just wasn't happening.
It's still the beginning.
I know, and
it's seriously, like, it's brand new.
So if you wanted to teach, you know, you had to find a music store to go teach in, or teach out of your house. And so I wanted to get a regular job, and I got burnt out. I stopped playing for a long time. So
really?
Just got out of it. But I went and worked at a music store. So it wasn't like I wasn't around stuff all the time.
But you took some time off playing.
Yeah, because I got sick of it.
Yeah. Yeah, because were you guys doing like 10 plus a month, 10, 12 plus?
Oh,
or even more than that?
Our summers, we spent 6 months out of the year in Ocean City.
Okay.
Three, you know, pretty much from, you know, our summer was just Memorial Day to Labor Day down there.
Yeah.
And one summer we did 120 jobs in 90 days.
That's craziness. In Ocean City?
In Ocean City. We were playing.
It must have been obscene.
Dude, you remember the Ocean Club on 49th?
Yeah, that used to be a part of Ocean Pines, right?
No. It's on. No. Ocean Club
But didn't Ocean Pines have an ocean club over there you could go to?
No.
It doesn't matter.
No, the restaurant was called the Ocean Club. It's right across from Secrets. And this was when Secrets was still just the shack.
Yeah.
It wasn't the monstrosity.
The biggest bar on the East Coast.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And the guy that owned it, he owned that and the Gateway Hotel in that area. And then he also owned the Sheridan, which is now the Clarion.
Mm-hmm.
So we would always do nights at the Ocean Club. Very seldom would we do nights at the Sheridan. But we would do daytime gigs too. We would do 4 to 8 outside. And my outside rig was an old Roland Octopad.
Yeah.
Before they had, the SPD8s or whatever that have sounds built into them.
Right.
So I still had my DM5 with my headphone amp, a kick trigger, snare trigger, hi-hat, crash, and a ride cymbal.
Yeah.
That was my outdoor gig. My full-on electronic kit was inside. So we would do 4 to 8 outside, hump the outdoor rig back into the van, go get cleaned up, do 9:30 to 1:30 inside.
So that guy was like your full-time employer.
Yeah. And it was just like, it got to a point after, I was in my 20s, so it was, hey, I'll do it, no problem, no problem. But some of those weeks that we were doing doubles, obviously, after a while my hands are just like,
oh yeah, you crushed.
knock it off, dude. Just stop.
Yeah. All right, so you did that for a while, and then tell us how you got involved with Derek St. Holmes and that whole thing.
I'd worked for Guitar Center for 11 years.
Right.
And one day, one of my sales guys, I'm sitting in the office doing whatever on a Saturday, and one of my sales guys comes in and he goes, dude, Derek St. Holmes is here. And I'm like, what? Derek St. Holmes is here. And I'm like, okay, what's he buying?
I'll be right out.
Well, actually, I didn't, at the time, I was, eventually, I'm like, what's he buying? And he goes, what do you mean, what's he buying? I'm like, he's not in here to just hang out. We're in Glen Burnie. Nobody goes to a Guitar Center in Glen Burnie if you're Derek St. Holmes or even Joe Walsh, because he came to the store
or
one time.
for any reason.
Right. I might get some flack from old Guitar Center fans, but who cares?
No, it's all right.
No, but I said, what's he
I
buying?
only go to Glen Burnie to go to Carol's Western Wear to buy cowboy boots.
And that's probably the only decent place to find cowboy boots in the area. Like real deal.
Yeah,
cowboy boots.
For sure.
If you want to blow $1,800 on a pair of boots.
I haven't done anything like that much.
But anyway, he came in and I said, what's he buying? And he just, what do you mean what's he buying? I'm like I said, he's not here just to hang out.
Yeah.
And he goes, I don't know. And I was like, well, just be cool. I know who he is. You know who he is.
Yeah.
Just be cool. And then eventually I get a page to the office like, hey, there's this guy here that, needs some help with the price. I think you know who he is. And I'm like, yeah, can you have him come up front? Because I'm trying to knock this out. So he comes up to the front, shake hands, kiss babies, all that stuff. We're talking. He's
pleasantries.
Yeah, and he's a good guy. I mean, having known him for a while and broken bread in different places and other funny stories with him. He comes. He's buying a little PA on a stick type of thing, and I'm taking care of him. And I said, so what are you doing here? I knew he was from Detroit, obviously, but he said, well, I just moved here from Atlanta. And I'm like, oh wow, how long were you in Atlanta? And he was there for a gazillion years. And I said, so what do you got going on? And he was playing around town doing stuff with PRS at the time, and he said, but me and my girlfriend, now his wife, he said, we're off to England. I said, oh, vacation or vocation? Yeah. And he looked at me and he said, oh, we're going to see the Led Zeppelin reunion. And I just stopped what I was doing and I said, I don't like you. And I walked back in my office. And he's like, no. He's like, oh, no, you gotta come back. And I'm like, no, dude, you just ruined it for me. I'm not helping you for nothing. If you got in there somehow.
I can see you doing that.
Yeah. So he actually had another drummer playing with him when he was living up around here. And it didn't work out for whatever reason. And I said, okay, well, I'll do it. And I wasn't playing at that time anyway. I don't remember. I don't think I had any gear for whatever reason. It's just I was a GM, so I didn't have any time to do squat.
Yeah.
And but I ended up buying another kit. And
was that this one?
No, it was one before this. And then ended up buying this one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah, and did all kinds of stuff with them. I mean, do you remember the Ponkerbird Pub?
No.
All right, it's off
Fox Street, I imagine.
Yeah. What's the strip bar that's near there?
I don't know.
The Ponkerbird Pub was a legitimate establishment, had great burgers. But I actually played there one time with Derek St. Holmes.
And someone's going to tag it, I don't know.
It was just, we would play places in Glen Burnie and stuff like that it was just like, people came out with the first Whitford St Holmes album on vinyl to get him to sign it. And
Yeah.
I knew about it. A buddy of mine tracked it down and sent me all the tracks from it online, and
Yeah.
I was learning some of the stuff from that. But I was like, wow, these are fans, and did a lot of gigging with him, had a lot of fun, and learned a lot. Rehearsals with him were always, why don't you learn this, and this, and he was living in like horse country out in Annapolis at one time. And I would always hit this one liquor store on the way out there, and he got mad at me afterwards. He's like, you buy all this really good beer, you're making me fat. And I'm like, well, nobody's twisting your goddamn arm to drink it either.
So actually, one thing I wanted to ask you, and we can lead into this as just a question in general about that, is when I saw you guys play, was that Dealey on bass?
Yes.
Yeah. He sounded, he sounded kind of like this. Let's see if I can get a good set. Like soaking in the reverb.
Yeah, we were playing.
Was he always like that? And
Yes.
how do you not get lost in the mix with that?
It happened one time. We were playing a spot in Glen Burnie, where I don't even remember the name of the place.
I mean, you guys sounded great, but I remember seeing him and I was like, he is swimming in it.
Well,
how do you not get...
There was one time he was starting an intro of a tune and he looked back at me to come in, and I said, I can't tell where you are. Because it was just
There's
bouncing.
no definition, yeah.
So he starts giving me the Mr. Ed and, stomping his foot on the ground to count me in, and yeah, there were times that it was tough. You really had to, because I guess that was the 70s thing. I don't,
Yeah.
But it always said, when he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for his guitar playing. He's a monster guitar player.
Well, when I saw him, I thought he sounded fantastic. And what I really liked about his playing was how, deliberate everything is. Everything is very much, a lot of us, tend to float around the neck. And especially, guys like that, I mean, every single note is 100% sold.
Oh, yeah.
And that was the thing I really remembered when I saw him, was that, he made you believe every little piece of it. And his singing, too, obviously. People know him predominantly for that, I would think.
Well, oddly enough, and if you ever see the Hired Gun movie on Netflix, have you seen that?
I have not.
Dude, you got to take the time and watch it. It's really well worth the time.
Yeah.
He's in it. They talked to Liberty DeVito from Billy Joel's band, Rudy Sarzo, Glenn Sabell from Alice Cooper's band.
Yeah.
He played this kid once before.
Yeah. Talk about a good show we saw, man.
Oh, dude.
Dude.
But anyway, whenever I saw Derek with a guitar in his hand, whether we were at his house, in the store, playing a gig, it was never just hanging from him.
Yeah.
He was always doing something with it. Something that he probably had done 5,000 times. But again,
he just connected with it.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got it in his hands all the time.
Yep.
And I tell people that constantly. People that watch this channel know that my number one advice for guitar players in general is just to keep it in your hands.
Yeah.
And when they ask me what guitar should I buy, get the one you can't put down. Forget about the brand. Forget about what the age it is, what it looks like. If you can't put it down, you're going to play more. You're going to be better.
Yeah. And that's the same. I mean, granted, for drummers it's a little different because you can't always be behind this. But I'll walk around the house and if I'm sitting watching TV, play my practice pad, something like that.
Yeah.
It's just you have to. If it's just if you want to get to a certain point where you don't have to worry as much as the average person about your playing.
Yeah.
Because you always will. It's just, you have, like you said, you have to make it an extension of your physical being.
Yeah, and that's the only way you end up sounding like you. Also.
Yeah.
You gotta just spend time with it, and like you said, even if it's on the practice pad or you're watching TV, I used to kind of keep it strapped on me when I was even doing dishes or stupid shit. Just if it's constantly. It's about repetition. If you're constantly picking it up, if you're constantly doing it, you're going to sound like you eventually.
There were two sayings I always had for my students. One was easier to explain than the other. One was repetition is the mother of all learning.
Learning anything.
The unfortunate, there's a downside to that because if you learn it wrong and you keep repeating it, you're going to shit the bed every time you try to do it.
I mean, we have a bunch of songs that we do that we learned incorrectly, but we're not going back.
No, not at all. Not at all, because we probably screw it up when we play it live and forget how to play it in general.
Which is fine.
Yeah, exactly. But the other one was a Bruce Lee quote, and Bruce Lee's quote was, "I don't fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks. I fear the man that's practiced one kick 10,000 times."
Yeah, man. That's the same thing.
Yeah, it's in. and you'll reach those periods in your playing and that you don't want to do it, and you do need that downtime.
Yeah.
You do need that time to walk away a little bit, clear your brain, you know. But then the cool thing about it is once you sit back down behind it, things will feel a little different. So I don't know how it is for guitar, but the one thing that I like about drums, and it's done this for me over the years, is that my setup has constantly changed. And the great thing about a drum set is that you can tailor it to your body.
Yeah.
You know.
So like different people want different bounce. They want different. Like,
yeah, just how you know. You don't want to.
When you play, by all means.
Well, if you're playing, you obviously want to. You want to make it easy.
Yeah.
You know, and when we're all starting off, you know, sometimes your drums look like the Price is Right drum setup, where the shit's just like all angled in at places. It's like, why would you do that? But you know, for some players, especially like if you look at the old big band drummers that all, you know, traditional grip, and you see a lot of guys doing this now, they'll angle their drums down, and it's from the angle, the ergonomics of the way their hand hits.
Yeah, so when it hits, it's flat there.
Well, if my snare drum, if I were playing, if you look at my hand, if I were playing traditional grip, like this, for you guitar players who don't know what traditional grip is, I might want to angle my snare drum down so that rim shot I can get easier at.
Yeah.
I don't really do traditional grip that much because my playing is more rock and roll 2 and 4, power oriented, you know, but you know, as I've gotten older, my seat height has changed. I've started to sit higher, and you hear some guys talk about, oh man, my back is killing me. It's like, well, raise your seat.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know what that's going to do. Well, it might make your back feel a whole hell of a lot better.
And you can always adjust your drums.
Yeah, that's raise, lower, in, out, booms. It's like, why have you played it like this since you were 9? You aren't built like that 9-year-old anymore.
Because I can't change anything. I might not be as good.
Right, exactly. Oh, dude, I'm sorry, but people that say they only sound good on their kit, they sound like shit on everything.
You know what? I love that, man. It's true. And like, there's some people that, I mean, it's obviously the same with guitarists and bass players or whatever. People just, you know, they gotta have their amp. It's gotta be their pedal. It's gotta be their whole thing. You know what I mean? And they just, and then like they feel like they don't have any licks when they jump on anybody else's thing. I've never understood that. I always like jumping into other people's rigs.
Sure.
Because it'll make me play different.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was watching this thing. A really well-known drum teacher, Mike Johnson.
Dude, by the way, he's like who I have modeled Guitar Gate after. Because it
totally makes sense.
There haven't been many other guitarists that have, you know, done it as well as he's done it on drums.
Yeah, and
you know, he does it about as good as you can do it.
He does, and his facility. You look at, you know, I mean, I'm primarily only on Instagram, and we'll talk about that stuff later. It's just not that what you do isn't pro, but his is just like, this is some.
He spent hundreds and hundreds of thousands.
Oh, totally,
yeah.
Totally. And but what I was getting at, he's doing this mini camp with this other drummer named Carter McLean, who plays with Charlie Hunter, and I think he's in the pit for the Lion King. I could be wrong, but anyway, there was some stuff on Instagram I saw with Carter playing Mike's kit, and he still sounded like Carter still sounded like he was playing his kit. It didn't sound any different.
Yeah.
You know, that whole thing, it's all in your hand. Whether you're a drummer or a guitar player, it's all in your hands, you know, and you'll sound like yourself behind someone else's drums or your guitar or something like that, you know. If you don't sound good, you're going to sound just as bad on somebody else's gear. It's just the way that it is.
You'll probably even sound worse because, you know, you don't know how to hide it in their gear.
Yeah.
Well, let people hear you play a little more.
Okay.
Why don't you pick a groove, and I'll kind of lay back, and you can do whatever you want to do. people come in here and catch me off guard.
Well, I had. There's certain group like that. Actually, that group is from a Government Mule song called "About to Rage," and
I want to go and hear what Warren Haynes does on that.
I mean, it's all following each other.
Yeah.
And I love that group. It's just such a. If you're gonna play a shuffle in 7, that's a cool shuffle in 7.
Yeah.
One of my other favorite grooves that I was gonna do it a little differently. That's actually the title track from Blood Sugar Sex Magic.
Well, I did something entirely different than that.
But it worked. It worked.
I gotta go back and check that out. All right, well, let's talk about your gear now.
Okay.
Because everybody that comes through here that does what we do is always curious about what people play with.
Okay.
So, you're a Yamaha guy.
I'm a Yamaha guy. Not endorsed.
Yeah.
Wink, wink, wink.
We'll tag them.
Yeah. Trust me, I do. But this was the kit that I bought when the second kit that I bought when I was playing with Derek. Mm-hmm. It's a Yamaha Tour Custom Maple Shell 13, 16, 24. I do have an 18 for it. I have a 10 and a 12.
Mm-hmm.
We could also do a segment of this sometime on how to properly load a Mini Cooper Clubman with all your drums. That's what
we should.
You should, yeah. If you want to look out the rear window, you're shit out of luck. But anyway,
but you haven't gotten all those pieces in the Mini Cooper yet, have you?
No, because I'm not playing a gig with all those pieces.
I was gonna say, have you ever brought all of those out?
No.
At one of our gigs?
Nope.
I don't think so.
Nope. I played a 5-piece one time at that yacht club gig we were talking about earlier before we started this.
And I know you brought the big tom out as your kick before in small gigs.
Yeah, I've done that.
Yeah.
Actually, that was my summer kit for this other band.
Yeah.
Also, it was great. But anyway, all aquarium drum heads, modern vintage 2s on my toms right now. This 12 sounds like, did I say 13, 16? 12, 16. This 13's about to, this 12's about to die, so it's probably why you hear the warble out of it. A 6.5 by 14-inch Ludwig Rocker bronze, all Peisty 2002s. All my favorite drummers as a kid played 2002s.
They sound great, man.
Yeah, I love them, and they're not something you'd expect to use at a wedding.
Yeah.
But I've learned how to just, because they're loud cymbals, but they.
Yeah, well, I mean, you don't crush it till the very end.
Try not to.
Try not to.
Try not to.
Yeah.
The one manufacturer it might be tough to see. You might have.
Here, I'll get my camera if you want.
Okay.
If you want to show something.
The one manufacturer that I've hooked up with, and they make a stupid awesome product is TNR Products. They make them for snare drums and for floor toms. You see the little shoes on my floor tom.
Yeah, you know, I remember when you got those. I had never seen those before.
Yeah, they're called booty shakers. And for the snare drum, they make those. These are the little booty shakers.
Gotcha.
And what they are is they're isolation units that help to bring out they isolate the drum from the floor, because you figure if it's making more contact with the floor, it's going to not resonate as much. And
right.
Everybody wants their drums to resonate more. The thing is, when you start drilling holes into something, it's going to resonate less. So what are you going to do to alleviate that? But these isolate them. You get a fair amount more low end out of them. You know, this floor tom, it just goes.
Yes, it does.
And it's made a huge difference.
Especially when it's mic'd up to a nice PA. That thing is just like a.
I know.
This stuff is like cannons.
I know.
It's awesome.
And I would have never thought in a million years using a 24-inch kick drum and a top 40 cover band. If there's one thing, I wish it were a little shorter, because drums, when they're a little shorter, there's less air to push, obviously, a little easier to play, and a little easier to pack into a Mini Cooper Clubman.
Gotcha. Well, all right, so one other thing I wanted to touch on, I can't remember what we forgot, but being that this is, you know, kind of a guitar-centric educational channel, you play with a bunch of guitar players.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with the obvious, you know, advice of, you know, play less and don't noodle. You know, is there anything that you could recommend, you know, to guitar players watching in general that are in bands as far as locking in better with the drums or grooving? Anything at all you could think of?
Sure. And it's understandable because you're much more of a lead instrument. But,
yeah.
You know, I hone your rhythm chops.
Yeah.
And really a great way of honing your rhythm chops is listening. And not just, obviously listening to the drummer and the bass player of the group that you play with, but you know, I find myself to be a rock drummer with, you know, slightly better than average chops. And,
yes, for sure.
And I'm striving to be the best Matt Bowers I can be. I'm not trying to be the best. When I play gigs with other bands and there's other drummers there, oh, that guy's really good. Yeah, he's good. That's cool. How do you feel about that? He's good. I'm not trying to be him. Let him do that. That's his problem, not mine. But
I couldn't agree more, man.
But the one thing that I was thankfully, as you know, in my late teens, that I finally figured out how to do was just listen to other music, listen to how other people do things. I stopped actually listening to drummers for a couple years, and started listening to phrasing of, especially when I was listening to a lot more jazz, and I've gotten back into that more. I don't play it, but just because you don't play a style of music doesn't mean you can't be influenced by it.
Yeah.
You know, you went to GIT,
right,
and you were exposed to everything.
Yeah.
You know, and you know
too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And while, you know, your playing style may not necessarily be jazz oriented, it may not necessarily be metal oriented.
Right.
You took components from that to make it you.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, and that's what's really important. So if you spend time listening to how other people phrase, to how other people feel things, and as far as that's really what's going to change your playing.
Yeah.
I remember reading a quote. There was a magazine, a local drum magazine called Talking Drum. Anybody that's been around Baltimore long enough, you would have seen it. And I remember reading this interview with this drummer named Brandon Finley, and he played for a go-go band, and he said he learned that from Chuck Brown, the godfather of go-go, that a groove to a song is from a woman's breasts to her knees. And if I get some flack for this, sorry.
Dude, no, it's all good. This is the real stuff.
If you're making that move, that floor will be packed all night.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what you're playing. If you're doing what we do, if you're doing, you know, hip hop, if you're doing country, if I tend to lay back a little bit more on grooves, and I noticed this the other day, and the song X's and O's.
Yeah.
I don't know the girl that sings it, but the original.
I don't know who the original.
I know. I can't. I think she's British, and that's about.
Yeah.
You know, that's about it. But if you listen to the tempo of that song recorded, it's like.
Is it really?
It's like it's peppy, and I'm listening to the lyrics of this song, and I'm like, again, I might get in trouble for saying this, but it's like the lyrics of this song, you just kind of sound like just a dirty broad.
Yeah.
So why would it be all peppy and upbeat? Like when we play it, it's. We keep the dance floor packed.
Yeah.
I tend to think people will dance more, especially women, pull back a little bit on the beat.
For sure.
Lay back a little. There's nothing more irritating to me than hearing a band that is actually, and it's 99.9% of the time the drummer's fault, that just absolutely takes off tempo-wise.
Well, and that's what I was going to say is that you talk about listening to a lot of different music and musicians. I find myself, listening to a lot of drummers, personally. And I feel like every musician should have a drum set in general. But I kind of feel that, being an instrumentalist as opposed to a drummer, like I just feel like rhythm first has to be the mantra of everybody in the band.
What would Metallica be if they didn't have James Hetfield playing those rhythms?
Yeah. Well, he's got like the best right hand in the business.
But it's just that's him. And I always wanted Eddie Van Halen to step, go great rock guitar players.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, his solos are amazing, but his rhythms, his writing is just like.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he and his brother grew up, just same thing with Vinny and Don.
Yeah.
The rhythm is out of control. But the point I was trying to make is that, when I play with other people, I feel like it's so easy for people that, we talked about it before, learn a song one way or learn a groove one way, and they go with a different person or a different band, and they do it faster, they do it slower, they do it differently. I always completely adapt to what the drums are doing first, and then fill in the space.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, like you said, you're not going to get anybody moving or dancing ever.
Yeah, and for for me as a drummer, obviously the relationship with the bass player is the most important. But when I would play with St Holmes, typically when I play, I've got guitar player over here, bass player over here. With St Holmes, it was different because you're cueing off of him and what his feel is. Mm-hmm. So he was always to my left. Same thing with if you're from Baltimore, Ruben Montoya.
Mm-hmm.
His groove is just. It's ridiculous, and when I get the chance to play with him, I love it. And
I actually just saw him the other night. Andy and I went on a rare date, and Gambone was playing drums with him.
You know what? If I could get away with strangling Gambone to play that gig, I would do it because because Ruben's feel is just.
He's great. I'm trying to get him to come in here and do one of these. Ruben, I'm going to shoot you an email.
Please do it, Ruben. Please, please.
Yeah, no, Ruben he's one of my favorites to see around town.
There was one night. Playing with him, his bass player, he was like, "Dude, don't swing with him." And I'm like, "Why?" I said, "It's just
don't encourage him."
And he was just like, because he'll go into it, just keep it straight. And I couldn't.
Yeah.
I just couldn't do it. And when I would start to swing with him the way he does, his pocket's a mile wide. It's so awesome to hear that in a guitar player.
Yeah.
And I would look out, and there were more people dancing. It's just like, I'm not gonna get away from that.
Dude, yeah, and I don't remember the person's name, but I saw this YouTube video a couple weeks ago, and it was this old jazz guy teaching this class full of students at a university, and his whole thing was like, when we went out and saw Miles Davis, he was at a dance hall.
Yeah.
When we went and saw Dizzy Gillespie, it was at a dance hall.
Yeah.
It's like when we went and did any type of gig, no one was at coffee shops, no one was at bars, it was at dance halls. And he was just like, if the kids just start thinking about the ends and the us, and just, where you can, feel little triplets and not just what chord is it, what scale is it, what's the melody line. If you can just think about the ends and the uhs and the e's, then you're gonna get it.
Yeah, and you that briefly mentioned triplets. I've tried to with songs, that are straight eighth feel. You hear so few songs, unless you listen to blues or stuff like that. You hear so few songs nowadays, pop songs, that have a shuffle feel to them.
Yeah, it's true.
And if you're playing a straight eighth type of groove, think of it in terms of triplets.
Always.
Because you'll relax a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And when I would teach students triplets, it's one less note. That's really all that it is. And you just make it a little bigger, and this is the feel of it. And triplets have a rolling feel.
Yeah.
Quarters and eighths and sixteenths are very.
That's why I love
up
stuff
and
in 6 and in 12. Just
oh yeah.
Subdividing by 3, we're gonna get too heady for everybody, but that's like my thing.
It is.
It's so much. It feels more natural than subdividing by 2.
There was a band once I saw in Ocean City, and they were playing the Bowie tune "Modern Love."
Okay.
And straight eighth type of feel. And I was listening to the drummer, and you could tell he wasn't a guy that typically played David Bowie, which is fine.
Yeah.
But I was listening to him, and you could tell he was thinking triplets, because it just had a little bit of that just lilt, if that's the right word, that sway, that type of thing to it, as opposed to just straight eighths. It just had that feel to it.
One of my favorite drummers that I played with, he actually moved to Germany, but I used to play in a reggae band with him. His name is Donnie Eastman. You'd always do the one drum, right? Coming in on 1, and he used to tell me that he would always feel it in 6.
Mm-hmm.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the 1 was on that 4.
Right.
And it made all the difference once I started thinking about that, getting the offbeats for the reggae stuff.
It's funny, reggae is one of those styles of music that I'm not really much for listening to.
Yeah.
But I really want to learn how to play it better, because it's fun to play.
It's so much fun to play, and you talk about just grooving with an audience, and getting everybody dancing.
Yeah.
I mean, good reggae bands do it really, really well.
Oh yeah.
Well, my friend, how can people find you?
You can find me on...
When they're not at a What's Next show.
When they're not at a What's Next show. Or, well, it depends on who I'm playing with, if we're talking about that. I've been lucky, I've been really lucky in Baltimore to have played with a lot of different people. And I really enjoy the opportunity I don't know how I ever thought of just being in one band was enough.
Yeah.
I mean, playing in What's Next with you guys, we're all, it's a very centered type of thing. We're a judgment-free band.
Right.
Which means we're free to judge each and every one of each other.
You can have as much as you want for free.
Exactly. You can be the ass clown at NAMM.
That's right, dude.
But just, I'm playing a date with Cajun Kelly next month.
Yeah, great player.
Yeah, awesome. It obviously was on here before.
Yeah.
And it's the opportunity to play Alice in Chains and, maybe some Van Halen and Hendrix and stuff like that. And just, I love playing with a million different people whenever I can. I can't do enough of it.
Yeah. Well, keep doing it. Like I said, everybody that plays with you is always just like, God damn, I didn't even think about it all night. And that's when you know you're doing something right. When you're not even thinking about it. Because that's what the crowd's feeling. If they're not even thinking about it, they're just dancing and drinking their beer, then you're doing your job.
Yeah.
You really do it with the best of them, brother. It's a privilege to play with you.
Thank you. Likewise. But to find me, Instagram, Matty B Drum, MATTYDURM.
Yeah, we'll tag you.
DRUM. I can't spell anymore.
Yeah.
If you want to email me, mattybdrum@gmail.com.
And I know that you're working on an online drum course, and so when that comes back on, or when that comes out, you got to come back on and tell us all about it.
Absolutely. I'm working on something that, from basement to playing a 1-hour set with your band in 12 weeks.
I like that. I should do more of that stuff where it's like this time frame, these steps. People love that stuff. Resonates well.
I think when you make it in steps and you put an end time on it, you're keeping it goal oriented.
Yeah.
I want to go in, and that, I've done teaching at places where they want you to play in a band, but you need those fundamentals right off the bat. Don't throw a kid into a band situation if they don't know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Not everybody can. You probably through your learning, some things came to you like that.
Yeah, and some things still don't.
Exactly. And one of the things for me that came easy right off the bat, at least at an elementary level, was reading.
Really?
It came easy to me. Now, don't throw Zappa's The Black Page in front of me because, you know, I'll throw it back at you and say, hey, Posey ought to play it. That's his gig.
Yeah.
You know? But just, you need fundamentals. You need to have good technique. Good technique will not only help you sound better, it'll save your body. You know, if you want to play into your 60s, regardless, maybe short of playing, you know, blast beats, because I don't know how physically somebody could do that in their 60s. But
I've never seen anybody.
Nah, neither have I. But if you want to do it well and do it for a long time, develop good technique.
I like it. Well, you want to play one more before you get out of here?
Sure.
Then we'll call it a day.
Sure.
What you got? Give me a totally different groove.
Do you want an odd time?
You can throw one at me. I mean, I'm not going to sound good, but it's about you anyway.